Good day everyone, good day Ma'am Tabay. I am Rona Jane Baring and today I will be going to discuss about kind of sources which are animals and plants. So when we say animals, in simple definition, it is a living thing that can move and eat and react the world through its senses. So in other words, animals are like humans too. They also have their own feelings and emotions that we people have. But what is the role of animals in art? Animals have been a source of inspiration for many artists. From art about rural life and growth to myths and legends, animals are used in art in many different ways. Art can help us explore our relationship to wildlife and can help us think about how we care for animals and the environment. So let's cite an example. The first example was named as Tiger by Franz Marc. Franz Marc is largely unknown to the greater public when compared to Cubist counterparts like Picasso. But his tiger gives you a pretty clear idea of what this style is all about. Mark's deconstruction of a tiger uses bold primary colors with thick black lines that create a sense of ominous tension and impending doom. In other words, death by tiger attacks. Next is Louis Wain's cat painting. The details of Louis Wain's life, particularly regarding his mental health and the impact it had on his art, remain disputed. But one thing we can say for sure is that he devoted most of his artistic efforts towards depictions of cats, which gradually turned more and more abstract over the years. The last one was that Cat and Bird by Paul Klee. Paul Klee was fascinated by the art made by children, the spirit of which he evoked and channeled into his own art. He was also, by many accounts, quite fascinated by cats. These expressionists were combined two of Klee's interests into a quite dreamlike composition. Despite the tension you might expect to find between a cat and a bird, the color palette and softness of it all makes it seem much less like a life and death situation than we might initially assume. There are many different interpretations of the painting, most focusing on a sense of menace, mystery, and hidden motivations. In this case, the cat quite literally has the bird on its mind. Even without reading too much into the meaning and symbolism of the painting, it's a beautiful work of art too, with its warm and almost burnt-looking colors. For now, let's proceed to plants. So, when we say plants, it is a living thing that grows in earth, in water, or on other plants. Usually has a stem, leaves, roots, and flowers and produces seeds. But what do plants symbolize in art? Plants symbolize in art either as a background detail or as the focal point. Flowers can represent a multitude of emotions and feelings from love, passion, and desire to purity, innocence, or even death. But how plants are used in art? Well, everything that you plant in an art garden can have some functional use as an art material. Certain flowers and foods produce dyes for paintings and textile projects. Grasses provide fibers for weaving and making paper, and other plants can be dried for decoration and fragrance. Let me cite some example of artists and their creations. The first one is Ernst Haeckel. Ernst Haeckel was born in Germany in 1834. Ernst Haeckel spent his life researching flora and fauna from the highest mountain tops to the deepest ocean. A biologist, naturalist, and philosopher and artist. His incredible drawings helped to educate the world about microscopic organisms that were previously unseen. His work has left a lasting legacy both in the scientific and artistic worlds and have even inspired the work of artists today. Next is Alexander Marshall, a gentleman gardener living in London who studied rare plants. He decided to record the native and newly imported plants from the Near East and the USA growing in gardens. His Florilegium contains 159 foliage of watercolor paintings for his own personal pleasure. They contain more than 600 plant species and detailed studies of insects, birds, and animals. So the last one was named The Queens, a plate in the Curious Herbal by Elizabeth Blackwell. Elizabeth Blackwell was the first British woman to produce a herbal and the first woman to engrave as well as draw plants. She created and published her herbal to raise funds to save her husband from debtor's prison. So, taking everything into account, animals and plants are really important and linked together for the planet and for all living things. Where animals produce carbon dioxide, which the plants use for their growth and production of oxygen. When these animals die, their bodies decompose into the soil by microorganisms and provide nutrients for the plants. However, plants are producers. They take energy from the sun, nutrients from the ground, and water to grow and produce their flowers, seeds, and berries. They also release oxygen, which all animals, including human, need to survive. Animals are consumers, and they all depend on plants for survival. That's all. Thank you, and God bless us all.